I'm saying that when you start to look at yourself and say, if I start to think like a successful person, again, what you focus on becomes bigger. I absolutely believe that. And so I decided to take a chance. I decided that I've been skeptical for too long.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
As I record this, I'm sitting in my office. I'm wearing a dark blue Stafford shirt. It's a button-up with a collar and long sleeves, kind of a dress shirt. I've got khakis on. I've got blue socks, and I've got shoes that are Italian wannabes. They're definitely not Italian shoes, but they're knockoffs. No, I'm not going to tell you what kind of underwear I'm wearing. I want to pause here and remind you we are sponsored by ANow software. Folks, I was just in ANow just 5 seconds before starting here, just looking at our average fees and making sure that we are in line with a client that reached out to us and asked us to lower our fees. And so I wanted to see what our average fees were. It was very simple to find that out. So I was able to make a decision very quickly. By the way, the answer was yes, but slightly. Back to the client. But those are the types of decisions that I can make very quickly when it comes to ANow software. Check them out. Go to anow.com/coach. One more time, anow.com/coach. All right, folks, I've heard the complaints. I know that there's AMCs out there that ask you to dress professionally. And I know there's a lot of complaints like, what do you think I am, going to run around in shorts and in flip-flops? Well, actually, I know appraisers that do. And I don't judge them. I happen to know there's some appraisers in Hawaii that's very typical, and to come with Italian knockoff shoes to a home to do an appraisal without flip-flops or shorts would be very unusual. So I certainly think that the area that you're working in makes the difference. But I don't know, folks. I guess I don't understand why there's such a complaint out there when it comes for, our clients requesting that we dress professionally. I don't think most of us even give two thoughts about it because we dress professionally anyway, right? I hope we are. I mean, I really do. Aren't we dressing professionally when we go out? And maybe that's the complaint. It's like, what do you think I am? Of course I dress professionally. Although, again, I know some appraisers that don't. And you're representing a company, right? I mean, granted, you're not just representing yourself, but you're also representing the client. The client has a customer, and they've asked you to perform a service on behalf of their customer. I just don't see why there's a problem in the client asking you, and maybe even being somewhat specific. Certainly don't dictate what I put on in the morning. I get that. And by the way, I have a choice. If I don't like the way that a company that I work for asks me to dress, then guess what? I have a choice. I can move on. I don't have to work for that company. But normally I don't even give two thoughts about it because I dress professionally in general. Now, that has not always been the case. My name is Dustin Harris, and I used to be a schlub. Let me tell you about a principle that I learned years ago that I think will be beneficial. I know it's been beneficial to me, and it is a principle that I got from a man by the name of Napoleon Hill. Now, let me tell you briefly about Napoleon Hill. I don't want to give you the full background. You can learn anything you want to learn out there in the information age, but I'll give you a quick background so you understand where this comes from. Napoleon Hill was a journalist. Napoleon Hill was hired by a man that you're going to know by the name of Carnegie. And the long story short is, the story is that Carnegie gave Napoleon Hill about 30 seconds to make up his mind to completely change his career and work for him rather than a magazine. And basically the offer was that he would go around and interview Carnegie's friends. And these were all very successful businessmen and women. Back then, it was probably just businessmen, frankly. Let's just be honest. And the idea was that Napoleon Hill would find principles of success that these successful individuals used, and then report back to Carnegie, and he was free to write about it as well. And Napoleon Hill accepted, and his whole life changed as a consequence. He spent the rest of his life interviewing, getting to know, asking questions of very successful people, and finding out what made them tick. And as a consequence, he wrote many books, including The Success Principles, and he shared those throughout his life. Now, I'm a student of Napoleon Hill. I don't agree with everything that Napoleon Hill wrote. In fact, there's some really strange things that he wrote about ether and some of the woo-woo stuff, I guess, that he got into a little bit. And I know there's something to that. We can talk about that on another podcast. I've been challenged on that, by the way. Dustin, why do you make fun of woo-woo stuff? Do you not think it works? Well, let me boil it down to this. I believe that what you focus on becomes bigger. Okay? And so a lot of this woo-woo stuff does work, but it has to do with the focus and attention that you give it. Okay. Again, another podcast probably for another time. Today, I want to talk about one of the principles that Napoleon Hill taught me years ago. And this is, frankly, when I was bigger into Napoleon Hill than I am now. It's been a while since I've studied his stuff. I like his stuff. I've never changed that. And it's probably time for me to revisit it. If you have not read some of his stuff, okay, I would highly recommend that you do. Go into it with a bit of skepticism, but go into it with a whole lot of open mind, because remember, he got these principles not off the top of his head, but from studying other successful people and coming up with these principles of success that pushed him forward, by the way, and others around him forward. Okay. One of the things that Napoleon Hill taught, and I'm not going to use the exact language that he used, but one of the principles that he taught, and I just remember it hitting me so strongly that I made a turn of action in my life. And it was regarding dress and presentation. And I don't remember the exact principle and how he put it, but it basically says this, that you become how you dress. Okay, you've heard the old term that you are what you eat. Napoleon Hill would say that you are who you dress to become. And at the time that I heard this principle, for some reason, it struck me as being a true principle. It struck me as being accurate. It struck me as being something that I wanted to change in my own life. Now, at the time, I was kind of a schlub. Now, I wasn't buying stuff from the secondhand store and wearing that, right? Well, let's just be honest. I was wearing mostly Walmart stuff, okay? Yes, it was probably made in sweatshops. That was my wardrobe. Why? Because it was cheap. It was somewhat nice looking, but I mean, it was not quote unquote professional. Now, sure, I'm not wearing a t-shirt to my inspections, but jeans and maybe a polo shirt or something like that. Again, nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. Okay. I just remember thinking that I could do better. Now, at the time, I'll be completely honest with you. Okay. This is very open mic today. You're going to look into my soul a little bit. At the time, I was not financially in a place to buy new clothes. Frankly, I was not in a place to buy at any place other than Walmart. But I decided to take a risk. I decided to test Napoleon Hill's idea that when you dress for success, you become more successful. And I remember him telling a story about a man who basically got rid of his wardrobe and started dressing very nice. And within the first year or something like that, his net income had doubled or tripled. I don't remember the whole story, and I don't even remember which book it was from. I just remember listening to it on audiobook. I remember right where I was right outside a little town called Newdale, Idaho, driving down Highway 33. And I remember it just hitting me like, Dustin, that's a true principle. And Dustin, you need to change the way that you look, because if you want to be successful, you need to dress like you are successful. You need to start living like you're successful. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we should start living on our credit cards and living and going to, high-end restaurants and taking high-end vacations and buying high-end cars, and that somehow living like the rich will make us rich. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when you dress successfully, within reason, right? Not talking about going out and buying Gucci and Prada and some of these other things, right? I don't know what it is for men, right? The high end Armani suits. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that when you start to look at yourself and say, if I start to think like a successful person, again, what you focus on becomes bigger. I absolutely believe that. And so I decided to take a chance. I decided that I've been skeptical for too long, and it's not like I was going to go out and get a custom tailor, right? But I decided to get rid of my Walmart clothes and spend more money than I ever had on clothes. I literally got rid of pretty much all of my wardrobe, other than I kept a few things that I could wear on the weekends and on Saturdays to kick it around the house or out in the bushes or whatever. I like to be outdoors on the weekends. Now, when we get back from the break, I'm going to tell you what happened. True story. You might be a little bit surprised. Maybe you won't, but I think there's a principle here. Another principle here is how you're running your business. How are you managing your appraisal business? Folks, you don't have time to do appraisals and manage a business. You don't. So let ANow do the work for you. That's right. It will allow you to be able to crunch numbers and make decisions very quickly, like I told you about at the first of this podcast. I was asked a question. I was able to quickly discern, make a call, and boom, there you go. ANow does that for you. Check them out. Go to anow.com/coach. One more time. It's anow.com/coach. All right, folks. So the principle here is if you dress successfully, you become successful. Okay. I decided to try an experiment to test Napoleon Hill. And yes, it took some sacrifice. I would not recommend that you go do this on credit. I did not. Okay. I paid cash. I had enough money for that, but it was really a crunch. I remember having the conversation with my wife and being very uncomfortable, telling her that I was going to get rid of my wardrobe and upgrade. Now, again, I didn't go to a custom tailor. I went to Dillard's. I went to JCPenney, right? The shirt I'm wearing today is a JCPenney Stafford shirt, okay? So we're not talking high end, right? Maybe if I started wearing high end, I'd become a high end person. I don't know. But the bottom line is I didn't feel like I was dressing successfully because I was shopping at, again, nothing wrong with Walmart. Don't have any political beef against Walmart, but there's a level, okay? And then there's kind of the next level up. And I decided that I was going to start wearing the next level up. And so my typical dress currently is what I explained in the first of this podcast. That's my typical go-to wardrobe. In fact, it's boring to my wife. She's like, you wear the same damn blue shirt every day. And I said, no, honey, it's a different blue shirt. It's just the exact same color and the exact same style. By the way, there's a principle in that. I don't ever have to think about what I put on in the morning because I really only have one choice. Okay. Now, again, I would not suggest that you do this on credit, but let me tell you a true story. It was within 3 weeks that I decided to take a full day off and go to the mall in Idaho Falls and shop. I think the 2 stores that I shopped at were, I think I may have stopped in at Macy's, but I think the majority of my wardrobe that year came from Dillard's and JCPenney. And I remember, by the way, spending less than $500 because I just knew that any more than $500, it would just be too much. Okay. I remember spending less than $500. I can't tell you how much it was. What sticks in my head was about $350. Okay. So basically I bought, 6 or 7 shirts, 3 or 4 dress pants, some new dress socks, and maybe a pair of shoes. Okay. It wasn't a huge deal. But it was big enough that I felt like when I put the clothes on in the morning that I felt differently. Okay. Now, I kid you not, true story. my net worth went up 30% that year. Now, some of you can say, well, lucky break, Dustin. Come on. You're really going to pin that on your clothes? Well, listen, I don't know if it was just my costume, but I'm telling you, it didn't hurt. Now, what I think it was my attitude. When you dress nice, you feel different. Let me repeat that. When you dress nice, you feel different. Remember, what you focus on becomes bigger. So, folks, again, I share this as an anecdotal experience that I had, but I do feel differently when I'm in a t-shirt and jeans than when I dress nicely. I believe, who cares what your clients are saying? Okay, put that aside. I started out the podcast talking about, appraisers that complain when clients say, yeah, you should dress professionally. Okay, whatever. Put that aside. Just ask yourself how you feel. There's been times when I got up in the morning and thought, you know what? I don't have any appraisal inspections today. I'm just going to be kicking it in the office today. It's going to be casual Tuesday. Okay. So I threw on a t-shirt and, maybe some shorts or some type of, worn out jeans, whatever. And I went to the office and lo and behold, a borrower couldn't do it any other day. It was a rush order, needed to get out there. My assistant reaches out and says, hey, is there any way you can do an appraisal today? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, looking like, yes, of course I can. And I just remember going through the process of the inspection and just feeling a little bit chagrined, just feeling like I was underdressed. In fact, I may have apologized. I may have said, I apologize for my wardrobe. I was not planning on doing this today. I know you're in a hurry, so I made it work. Normally I dress a little bit more professionally than this, and they laugh and we have a good time together. But folks, it does make a difference. How you dress makes a difference. So my challenge today, take a look at where you're at with your wardrobe and ask yourself a question. Could you do better? Again, I'm not asking you to go into debt. I would highly recommend you don't. But could you do better? And what would happen in your life if you did? What would happen in your life if you also became a member of my Appraiser Academy? I'll tell you what would happen. I just got done preparing my next Appraiser Academy webinar, meeting, not sure what you call it, because it's live, it's interactive, we meet together, it's a group meeting, and we have opportunity to talk about a lot of really cool things. Every single month, please join us. Go to theappraisercoach.com/memberships and find the Appraiser Academy today.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.